Fallout 76. I didn't do that on purpose. I just said Fallout 76 and started laughing. And I realised that's going to sound contrived. But that's what happened. I just said Fallout 76 and burst out laughing. Jesus. Alright, Fallout 76 is in trouble again. Or at the very least, it's upset some people. I know, like the 15 people who are playing it. Up until this point, the premium store where people can spend atoms to get premium material has only been cosmetic. You know, costumes and shit like that. Stuff that used to be in video games for free, but companies have gotten away with selling back to us for money because they pushed the boat out with microtransactions so much that people got, you know, really pissed off about it. And in response, they brought that boat they pushed out back into shore just a little bit to take us to where things are still egregious, but they're not as egregious as they used to be, so more people have come to accept it. So people who did balk at microtransactions being in games to begin with now just shrug and say, well, it's just cosmetic because they've seen worse. That's how companies push their shit. Bethesda is keenly aware of where the boat was pushed and where the boat's been brought back to shore, so it promised that its premium store in Fallout 76 would never have any what they call pay-to-win microtransactions, where people can purchase direct gameplay advantages over the world and over other players. But of course, what is a pay-to-win mechanic? Is it anything that gives you even the slightest advantage, or should that term only apply to super powerful weapons or armor? Something that far and away puts you above the competition? Well, Fallout 76 is playing host to that sort of discussion right now, because Fallout 76, despite claiming it wouldn't have any pay-to-win microtransactions, has started putting gameplay advantages into its premium Atom store. No longer will the Atom shop just be about paying money to dress your character up like a mail carrier. You will be able to purchase repair kits that let you, well, repair your gear at nothing but the cost of the repair kit itself, no additional materials required. There are two types of repair kits coming to Fallout 76's Wasteland, and I mean wasteland in every sense of the bloody term. Basic repair kits will zonk your armor back up. I mean, all of your items that need repairing will whack them back up to 100%, whereas improved repair kits, well, I mean, they improve upon that. They'll whack it up to 150. Now, whether these are pay-to-win mechanics or not, there is no doubt that, as someone on the Jim Sterling subreddit pointed out, this plays into something I've talked about in the past, where game publishers, game developers at their behest, will invent a problem and then sell you the solution. The problem is item degradation in Fallout 76 is shit water. Shit's degrading all the time. Now, a game like Fallout 76 doesn't really need item degradation in the first place. It doesn't necessarily make those games more fun. But whether they do or not, people have been complaining more or less since launch that items degrade way too fast. Weapons just aren't very durable to begin with, so to start selling a method to keep them topped up seems a little bit shitty, whether it's pay to win or not. Bethesda is the company that decided weapons and armor and whatnot should degrade, so for them to offer you a way to fix it in exchange for money, that is a clear-cut case of inventing a problem, since item degradation doesn't need to be there in the first place, and then selling you the solution by popping up repair kits on the Atom store next to all the cosmetic shit, which people believed would be the only kind of shit sold in the store. Improved repair kits will be very rare rewards dropped for performing certain tasks within the game, whereas basic repair kits are the ones that will be found on the Atomic store. So the question comes, did Bethesda walk back its promise to not offer pay to win? And that's a tricky issue because what is and what isn't pay to win is subjective. So one can assume Bethesda has been choosing its words pretty darn carefully so that it can throw up its arms and say, we said no pay to win. We don't think repair kits are pay to win. Therefore, we didn't lie. As Eurogamer points out, Bethesda's Pete Hines told GameSpot at PAX Australia this little tidbit. If you don't want to spend money in the Atomic shop for cosmetic stuff, you don't have to. We give you a shitload of atoms just for playing the game. Oh, that's nice, being given something in the game for playing the game that you bought for fucking money. Folks that want to spend money on whatever the hell it is because they don't have enough atoms, they can. But it's not, I'm now better playing against other players because because I spent money. It's not pay to win, and it's not loot crates. Those last two fucking sentences, that's exactly what I've been talking about. The game industry pushed the envelope so fucking far, took the concept of microtransactions to such an egregious level that it's allowed other companies to say, well, it's not pay to win and it's not loot crates, therefore it's okay. Companies these days are basically saying, so long as we're not Star Wars Battlefront 2, we're okay, we can do what we want. But some of us still remember that these games that charge money up front are using economies lifted from the free-to-play market. Economies that should have stayed in the free-to-play market. And therefore, whether it's pay to win or not, doesn't fucking matter. Whether it's loot crates or not, doesn't fucking matter. These are still fee-to-pay games, as far as I'm concerned. Games where you pay to have the opportunity to pay again. So from my personal perspective, the entire conversation is moot, but it is still important to some people to distinguish regular microtransactions, I guess, cosmetic microtransactions from pay to win. Now, some people do believe that any gameplay advantage, no matter how slight, could constitute as pay to win, and I do see that point. An advantage is an advantage no matter how small, so just the slightest, the tiniest little boost to your personal performance takes you a step closer to winning. Therefore, it could be argued that you are paying to, if not instantly win, at least get closer to winning than someone who didn't pay. However, in the past, pay to win has been used in the pejorative sense to describe the ability to buy all the best shit, put no effort in whatsoever, and come out on top. You know, buying a gun with ridiculous accuracy and stopping power in an online shooter, while free players are given glorified water guns. There's an extreme example of pay to win, but that's generally how a lot of people view it. Spending your money so you don't have to compete in terms of skill, you just have to buy your way to the top of the food chain. Like when Draco Malfoy's father bought all of those Quidditch brooms for Draco and Slytherin. But here's where the AAA game industry may have shot itself in the foot, because they have relied so heavily on the "it's just cosmetic" excuse, and that's what it is, it's an excuse, that they may have inadvertently changed the meaning of pay to win themselves. I mean, just look at what Pete Hines said in that PAX Australia quote. He drew a direct distinction, a very clear distinction, between pay-to-win mechanics and cosmetics. He himself has seeded the idea, so maybe not so careful with their words, he himself seeded the idea that if it's not cosmetic, it's pay to win. We saw this with Star Wars Battlefront 2 as well. That genuinely was pay to win. The loot boxes in that game gave you such a clear-cut advantage over other players in an online shooter environment. So when they walked that back and then promised they'll take out all the pay-to-win stuff and just use cosmetic microtransactions, Electronic Arts also positioned cosmetics as the natural opposite to pay-to-win mechanics. Do you see what I mean? I hope I didn't mean that arrogantly. I genuinely am hoping I'm communicating what I mean here. Basically, by seeding the idea that cosmetics are the natural alternative to pay to win, the game industry indirectly reinforced the idea that if it isn't cosmetic, then it is pay to win, because that has to be the natural alternative to cosmetic items. Long story short, I think the AAA video game industry may have fucked its own propaganda. Well done. Own goal. So while it could be argued that selling repair kits is more like selling a quality of life advantage rather than a pay to win advantage, I'm perfectly okay with it being called either, because the game industry has made a rod for its own back again. Fans are annoyed about this. In a widely circulated comment from Enders, they point out they don't like the idea of anything being sold in the Atom shop that has a direct effect on gameplay at any level, really. Enders argues that even though they themselves don't worry about having to repair things because they find enough materials, it's the principle of the thing, and yeah, I agree with that. There is a principle involved here. Bethesda can argue that it didn't lie because it doesn't consider repair kits pay to win, But Bethesda itself drew a distinction between cosmetics and other forms of microtransactions. So whichever way you slice it, Bethesda knew damn well what it was doing when it was saying things like that. And even on top of that, there are still some compelling arguments for being able to repair your stuff more easily being a pay-to-win advantage, especially in survival. Not having to worry about the environment so much, not having to worry about wasting your weapons or doing damage to your armor, that can have a massive impact on the way you play a game. So however you want to slice it, whichever way you want to look at this, whether you want to look at this as a pay-to-win or a quality of life improvement, it is nonetheless an advantage being sold. An advantage being sold to offset a disadvantage that Bethesda invented. And if it ends up that any advantage, no matter how slight, will get called pay-to-win if it gets sold for money, well, that's on the fucking game industry, innit? No sympathy from me.